A very good morning to you. It is early morning here in Jerez in Spain, and we're about to get the qualifying underway for our 488 Challenge drivers for this season 2024. Of course, the main category of car is the Ferrari Challenge 296. However, the 488 is such a successful car that some of the 488s continue to race. This indeed then is round 3 of our 2024 calendar, and what an eclectic calendar it is as well. As we take a look, having been to Mugello and Balaton in Hungary, here we are in Spain before we just cross the border into Portugal, before Portimao and La Casale, the south of France, Nürburgring in Germany, and then Imola in the Emilia-Romagna region of Italy for our Finale Mondiale this year and final round, which is right in the middle of October. Going in a flash is this season, I have to say, 2024, and also in a flash is the speed with which you can generate around this Jerez circuit. Some 13 turns, and it's quite undulating. Some 8 right and 5 left. We're quite close to the city of Jerez. And it is just a little way up the road, maybe 10 minutes in the car. And of course, very much the sherry-making region of Spain. 24 degrees already on the track, 23 degrees the air temperature. We're expecting it to be a hot day today, that's for sure. And there we can see the 219 car of Ivan David Mari, who will be heading out for his 20 minutes of qualifying any moment now. To try and garner the best possible grid position for racing a little bit later on today. Alongside me, as always, Nico Spalek. Good morning.
Good morning, Dave. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, it is sunny here in Spain, as you might expect, but it's also been very, very warm over the last few days, and already the temperature, as you saw, already climbed up to 24 degrees. There we had a look into the Go Motorsport Baron Racing Garage with Fabian Wolven coaching Timmy Lindroth, and he had a good race yesterday until almost the very end, when unfortunately he wasn't able to finish it due to coming together, and that means he will have all the ambition and all the aspirations to finish higher up the order than he did yesterday. We're about 80 seconds away from this qualifying session to go underway, hence the red flag being shown to Ivan David Mari at the end of the pit lane. And there indeed is Tommy.
Yes, he was on for a podium yesterday, there's no question about that. And Tommy bitterly disappointed, having taken 3 podiums out of 4 race starts this season. He was really rather nerfed out of the race yesterday, unfortunately, but he will hope to right the wrongs of yesterday today as we look at Pino Frascaro, the Rosso Corsa racer who was on the podium yesterday. His best finish of the season with a P2. Well done, Pino. Great man. Really, really colourful character, as so many are, of course, in the Ferrari Challenge. It's what makes the paddock so appealing. Yeti there doing the work on just making sure Tommy is safe in the car before the cars are released for this qualifying session. So we have 20 minutes for our 488 Challenge drivers, and they will race with our Coppa Shell cars. And so there's a small 5-minute break after this 20-minute qualifying session before the Coppa Shell cars are released for their qualifying session. And we get the green flag waved, and I think it is Ivan David Mari that will be the first to make his way out of the track, or out onto the track, followed rapidly by one Mr. P. Frascaro for Rosso Corsa Racing. So the track awaits them, and as I say, Pino with his best result yesterday, taking a P2, richly deserved, heads out onto join after turn number 1 when you come out of the pit lane here. The climb uphill, and then you start rolling downhill once again through this chicane section. And well, it'll be a few moments before we see any meaningful times from our cars out there and up there on track. For Fabrizio Fontana, it was another very, very successful day as he took the race win. And Fabrizio has had 4 wins and 1 second place. It's far from a bad showing for the driver who drives for the Formula Racing team and is coached by Stefano Guy, who is no stranger to success in Ferrari Challenge and many other racing disciplines as well. As we look at the car of Nils Branson for Formula Racing through the chicane. And as I say, it'll be a while before we see any really meaningful lap times up there on the graphics that you will see on the left-hand side of your screen. Good morning to all our colleagues in the OB truck and around the circuit as well. For our cameramen, I hope you've got a case of water standing by because you're going to need it today. It's going to be very, very hot. We appreciate all the work that you guys and girls do on our behalf to make us sound good. Our broadcast studio, which is really rather an elaborate description for what is our center of operations, which is based in the paddock and able to bring you all the action across another fantastic day of Ferrari Challenge racing here in Spain. I mentioned the fact that the track is quite undulating, and I was talking to one of our 296 drivers just a few moments ago before coming on the air, and it was Henry Hassid and I said, you know, how do you set the car up to cope with the extreme temperatures that come later in the day, in particular when it gets to racing? And he said the engineers make sure that the tire pressures are really, really low at the start of the race, which makes the car something of a handful at the beginning of the race, but it repays in bucketfuls towards the end of the race when, of course, the tire pressures and temperatures, as a consequence, the pressures increase because of the heat. And he said the tires really come good, and therefore you're in a potentially really, really good position if you choose to operate that and struggle for the first few laps, as it were. Tommy Lindroth then, who had his struggles yesterday, as we've documented. He was on for another fine podium, and then the race was rather taken away from him. And he will be determined to, as I say, right the wrongs of yesterday. The Gome Motorsport Baron Racing Team driver who's been around the Ferrari Challenge for many, many years, and it is with some joy that I recall the last time that we were here, which was back in 2016. And yeah, Tommy being coached, as Nico said, by Fabian Volvend, and has had a very good season so far with 3 podiums, and yet to be on the top step of the podium, but it's never an impossibility, that's for sure, for the years and years and years that Tommy has raced. He's got huge experience, and again, another, like Pino Frascaro, another one of the truly colourful characters of the Ferrari Challenge, Nico.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the paddock overall is very vibrant, and so many great characters, a great camaraderie, not only on the track, where we see so much fair racing in the Ferrari Challenge across all the categories, but also in the paddock over lunch. You can see drivers from all different categories, different teams getting together, discussing and sharing stories, laughters, and if there is a coming together on the track, they share their various perspectives, but almost without fail they part in good spirits and with the best intentions to not do it again the next time around. So very, very good atmosphere overall, as we see Tommy Lindroth completing his first lap. It's a 1:57.706. That's quite a little bit away from where we were with pool time yesterday, which was a 1:48.431. The Ivan David Murray time quite a lot closer to that, but we still expect the times to come down. The qualifying in the 488s and in a few moments the Coppa Shell is only 20 minutes long. The drivers get the benefit of a fairly empty track, but they have to make do with 10 minutes less than the competitors in the other categories. That means we don't get the drivers to wait out that long, as we do sometimes see for other for other racing series or other categories, but Ivan David Murray, as you can see from the purple on the sectors, is approaching the timing line with all intentions to improve on his previous best, and he has done that, I believe, a 1:53.76. That beats his best quali time from yesterday, which was a 1:54.15. So already we can see that there is an improvement over yesterday. Will it be enough for pole position? Well, we are still awaiting the Fabrizio Fontana car to figure in this qualifying session. He, as you already said, Dave, dominating the series thus far, but a new day means a new opportunity for all the other drivers to get on terms with him.
Yes, he is by far and away the benchmark with which every other driver is aiming towards. Fabrizio Fontana, who comes into the Ferrari Challenge as a rookie this year. It's not his only motor racing experience, albeit the discipline that he has competed in prior to the Ferrari Challenge, very much more sideways driving, because he was something of a star in rallying, which is altogether different, and he's the first to admit that it's been a step up to come into circuit racing, but it was an aspiration he had, and he's acquitted himself very, very well, and he's making his way out of the pit lane as we speak. Niels Branson has gone second fastest with a 1:51.723, and there is Tommy Lindroth's driver coach, Fabien Volvend, who is also a renowned driver, having had much success in the Ferrari Challenge alongside many, many other categories. And Fabien I've known for many, many years, and there is no question about it that her coaching of Tommy Lindroth has really brought the best out of him. We're seeing Tommy driving at his best now that we've seen for many, many years. And I think that really highlights the fact that the relationship as a racing driver that you can have with your driver coach, and being able to absorb the information that's passed on to you by the driver coach and the recommendations, and you know, that relationship is really, really working in the Go Motorsport Baron Service team with Fabien and Tommy Lindroth. As we see now, Fabrizio Fontana then start his first timed lap. Pole position for Fabrizio yesterday. He converted that pole position into the race win. And I have to say, if we were to open the pages of the form guide, we would suggest that today could be very much a photocopy of previous. But form guide on occasions, because motor racing can be beautiful but also very, very brutal at times. You need to have everything aligned and all boxes ticked. Thus far, that has been the case by and large for Fabrizio, but the chink in the armour can come, and it can come just when you expect it not to.
Yeah, as we always say, and we get proven right time and time again in the Ferrari Challenge, anything can happen, and most days they will. So Fabrizio Fontana hasn't had it all his own way, but he has had a very, very strong run already this season, and first indication is that this lap isn't quite a competitive one, so he's still going through the process of warming up the tires, getting the car all lined up, and we expect the next lap to be the one that might trouble the time of David Ivan Murray, who is meanwhile still pushing his own time, has already brought it down to 1:50.2, and just as I say that, he has brought it down further, 1:49.882, so the first sub 150 time that we've seen here in this qualifying session today, and today overall, of course. So Fabrizio Fontana, his sector time is getting quicker and quicker all the time, and he now rounds the final turn and is getting ready to start his assault on the top times in this quali session.
So fourth fastest currently for Fabrizio Fontana. And here is the 289 car of Niels Branson, who's second fastest overall. And what is interesting is that already, with 9.5 minutes of this session remaining, we have had a lap time deletion, and that lap time deletion for Ivan David Murray for an excess use of tarmac, which doesn't belong to the racing circuit. It's beyond the white line, and Basically, in qualifying, if you run over with all four wheels over the white line, you get that particular lap that you're on deleted. And that will be the case for Ivan David Mari. I often think that actually the penalty with track limits can be just as painful in qualifying as it can be in a race. In a race, you get 3 warnings and then you pick up a time penalty. Well, in the qualifying session, the lap that you're on gets deleted. Now, how does that hurt you if you've got more time available in the session? Well, it hurts you because you've taken more out of the car and more out of the rubber, and you've got to do it all over again. Fabrizio Fontana for Formula Racing then with a purple sector 1 and a purple sector 2, expecting this chicane to be dealt with really rather competently, and he will have one more turn to do before completing this lap, which I, with some confidence, predict is going to be a new pole-sitting lap. Is it going to be the best lap of the session? Well, we've got 8 minutes for him to improve still further, but as he crosses the timing beam now, he vaults from P6 to P1 as really rather predicted with a 1:48.221.
Yeah, well predicted, and indeed Fabrizio Fontana puts in the quickest lap time of the week for the 488s, because yesterday's pole 1:48.431 already eclipsed that by 2/10, and we would expect him to go again, even though we also expect the drivers to be very, very cautious with the wear that they put on the tires this morning, because the drivers get a set of wheels and Pirelli P0s allocated per race day, and that means the drivers generally, with the new fresh set that they put on, they have to use it rather sparingly, or as sparingly as they dare, because those same tires will have to last the whole duration of the race later on. But as we almost surmise, Fabrizio Fontana is giving it another go, and the first sector already 3/10 quicker than his previous provisional pole lap, the 1:48.221. First sector 3/10 quicker. So let's see what he does in the second sector. Lost a little bit of time in that sector, but is still on trajectory to improve even further. Others who have put in a good time is Alexei Komarov. Pino Frascaro currently only P6. He's come back to the pit lane. So we expect him with 6.5 minutes. He won't be happy with P6, so he might decide to go out again.
I rather think that we have various feeds into our studio here, and I can see that the Rosso Corsa team are working on the Pino Frascaro car as Fabrizio Fontana takes 3 1/3 tenths out of his previous best time. So I am expecting to see Pino potentially out again. Just taking a look at the front end of the car. So whether Pino has reported some issue, and the Rosso Corsa team are looking at it, but Pino is, for the moment, in the pit lane. This is Ivan David Mari then, who is currently second fastest. But Fabrizio Fontana, having posted the first sub 1:48 time, 1:47.882, he is exactly 2 seconds, not tenths, not 100ths, not thousandths, exactly 2 seconds quicker than anybody else. Well, despite my best hopes, Pino will not be going out again, but one driver that is going out again is Tommy Lindroth, who is currently 4th fastest. He'll be dissatisfied with that, and therefore is out again to try and shave some thousandths, 100ths, tenths of his previous best time of 1:51.151, and put himself more further towards the sharp end of the 488 Challenge grid, which comes at the back of the Coppa Shell grid when it comes to racing a little bit later on. As I mentioned at the start of the program, these cars will be racing with our Coppa Shell category. You can see discussions going on the pit wall. Gianmarco Marzioletti to the very right-hand side of your picture, who's one of our Ferrari Challenge drivers. And there is Pino Frascaro, regrettably out of the car. So he will take no further part, I would suggest, in qualifying, with merely 4 minutes remaining. as I say, he brought the car in, and the Rosso Corsa team taking a look at the front end of the car. They had the front wheels off, and there's Andrea, who's team boss of Rosso Corsa, just having a conversation there with Pino as Fabrizio Fontana chooses to conserve rubber and has come in, having done what he's needed to do and put the car provisionally on pole position. I cannot see that time being beaten by any other driver as Stefano Guy gets in there to have a conversation with him. And he looks pretty happy with him. Of course, the driver coach, they have such a relationship with the drivers that they win together. They despair together on occasions when things don't go the way they want them to. As Tommy Lindroth, who could shake up the order a little bit here, he's certainly out around the circuit again. And we'll take a look at the sector times from Tommy Lindroth on this timed lap to see, as I say, whether he can get further up the grid. 3 minutes remaining.
This first sector is very much a winding one, and you can see how the drivers keep a lot of speed and a lot of momentum. It's also the longest sector on the track, but so this first sector time really is very indicative, the split time, and this first sector is 1.3 seconds up on Fabrizio Fontana. However, as you already said, Fabrizio has a 2-second margin overall, so even though that margin is quite big, there is still the potential to improve for Tommy in terms of grid position. Currently, as you said, P4. He would dearly like to move up 1 or potentially 2 spots. Pole position probably out of reach, but 1.9 second, there is still a potential. Also still going quick are the likes of Niels Brunson and Alexei Komarov. So I would say between positions 2 and 5, still anybody's guess how they will line up come the race later on as we follow Tommy through the final sector. Is one more turn to do before he heads towards the timing line. Rounds the final apex and now full throttle towards the line. Just under 2 minutes remaining in this qualifying session, and he completes the lap and indeed goes P3.
So good improvement then from Tommy Lindroth. Is he going to go again, potentially? Certainly doesn't look like he's reduced his speed. So currently it is Fabrizio Fontana, Ivan David Mari, Tommy Lindroth, but it's as good as in the bag for this man, Fabrizio Fontana. With just 1.5 minutes remaining, can't see anyone really troubling that 1:47.882 time. So another Rotiform pole position award will be going the way of Fabrizio Fontana. I feel confident to be able to predict that.
Yeah, that is very likely. Alexei Komarov also with a good lap. The previous time around, he pushed Niels Brunson, who was just P3 just a few moments ago, down to P5. So Alexei Komarov, as you can see, currently 4th on in the order, but Niels Brunson is also going again, and another very, very good first sector from Alexei Komarov, the best one thus far, 42.212. So that he might still be in play for P3 in this qualifying session. So it's not all done with just under a second remaining. That means for Komarov as well as Niels Brunson, this is the final attempt at making their mark and moving up the order for the race later on.
I would say that Tommy Lindroth has decided to bail the lap, and he's not going again. And sure enough, you can see his car there as Alexei Komarov passes Tommy Lindroth, who is in the process of cooling both the car and himself down after his qualifying session. So Alexei Komarov then and Niels Brunson are the only two really competitive cars out there at the moment in the final stages of this qualifying session as the checkered flag comes out. So Alexei Komarov lost a little bit of time in Sector 2. That could have been the fact that his focus was on making sure he could get by Tommy Lindroth with no problem. Tommy making sure there was plenty of room for him to be able to do that. So Alexei Komarov breaks the timing beam then and does move up, and he pushes Tommy Lindroth to a second row start in grid. So you picked up early on that his sector times were looking very, very good, and those sector times also very good for Niels Brunson, Nico, who has just pushed Alexei Komarov back down to P4, which in turn pushes Tommy Lindroth down to P5.
Yeah, as we almost predicted, P3 through 5 kind of went up and down and back and forth. And now, as you can see, these are our final standings. Everybody has completed this qualifying session, but it's only 4 minutes to go until we start the quali for our Coppa Shell drivers. We will get the full results on screen for you in but a moment. But here is our pole setter in the 488. That is Fabrizio Fontana. Or his car, rather.
Yes, Rotiform Pole Position Award will be awarded to this man on the very left-hand side of the grid as he's congratulated by Daniele Diamato, who's another driver coach and another hugely successful Ferrari Challenge driver in his own right. And well done to Fabrizio Fontana. It is another pole position tour there, who's boss of the Formula Racing in the middle of that picture as we get a super slow-mo of our P1 car. And results to come in full, as if by magic, there they are. For qualifying for our 488 Challenge cars, Fabrizio Fontana, it's another pole position. Ivan David Mari will go from P2. Nilsen Branson will be P3, then it will be Alexei Komarov, Tommy Lindroth, and Pino Frascaro. The 6 drivers that contest our 488 Challenge and their classification from qualifying as our Coppa Shell cars now await patiently at the end of the pit lane to be released for their qualifying. Making their way up the pit lane right now. There will be some 14 drivers out there. Yesterday it was a victory for Henry Hassid for Kessel Racing, and he didn't get the pole position award though. Let's see if he can add that to his collection of success today, and we will find out in around about 20 minutes or 21 minutes from now who will have the pole position. Now, of course, on track, the pole position is critically important, but in addition, further incentive is the fact that for pole position, you win another point. And when it comes to the end of the season and you're tallying up all the points, just those extra few that you can gain from having performed really, really well in qualifying can make the difference between being champion and not.
Absolutely, especially in a close and competitive category like the Coppa Shell, and we've seen that Henry Hassid, who you already referenced, he is the first repeat winner of 2024. We had 4 different winners from the first 4 races, and in such a scenario, in such a tight championship, that extra point counts extra. And there is Manuela Gostner and Thomas Gostner. Manuela, who was our pole setter yesterday, and she did it early. She did it very, very early, set in very, very quick lap times. So actually there are more cars ahead of her, so apologies. But Manu Gostner certainly was the first one who figured significantly on the timing chart, and nobody was able to beat the benchmarks that she had set out to put onto the graphics and the timing screen, and that earned her the Rotiform Pole Position Award and P1, and eventually led to her finishing P2. There is the car, and there is her sister, Corinna Gostner. She not as lucky in the race yesterday. Great to have her back on the grid. So the Gostner clan, which was somewhat usually reduced early in the season, is back to a 3-wide and dare I say very, very welcome, friendly and vibrant family clan here in the Ferrari Challenge paddock, as has been the case for many, many years. And we're about 10 seconds away from that red flag dropping and the green flag coming up. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Well, I didn't time that all that well. Well,
I think it was more the tardiness of the marshal rather than your timing.
Well, but let's still use that opportunity to say thank you for everybody involved in this racing event, all the marshals,
Not at
everybody.
all. Pack your ideas up, friend. You were a second late with your flag. Come on.
That'll be the that'll be all the difference at the end of the race or the qualifying. No, it won't. Thank you for everybody who's making it possible for us to be here, being so welcoming to us here in Jerez and the Ferrari Challenge paddock. And great to have you all here and great to have all our contestants of the Coppa Shell out on track. Well, I say all. 4 of them are still in pit lane, but the vast majority have decided, as you can see, to come out early and start the chase for the best quali times in Coppa Shell. There's only 20 minutes, or 19 of them remaining.
You're right. Short, sharp qualifying for our 14 Coppa Shell drivers to get out there. Morihiko Isasaki, Ray Acosta, Alexander Nussbaumer, Pierluigi Alessandri, Tibor Valent, Michael Martin, John Dillon, Thomas Gosner, Christoph Herney, Henry Hassid, Ken Abe, Corinna Gosner, von Skeltermar, Manuela Gosner. There you go. I've called all 14 names. Microphone going off. Small sleep. Joking, of course. There's no time for sleeping when you've got the action of the Ferrari Challenge Coppa Shell qualifying on track. Wherever you are in the world enjoying this, you are very, very welcome. It's the 3rd round of our 2024 Ferrari Challenge Europe season, and we are watching Manuela Gosner, who yesterday did a great job in qualifying and was usurped at the checkered flag by Henry Hassid. Will today be Manuela's day? That was the man that took the win yesterday, Henry Hassid. He's following the similarly coloured car of John Dillon right now. John Dillon having a very good time of it in the Ferrari Challenge this year, and rightly so. It's good to see him showing his talent. And John was on the podium yesterday, and far from the first time. He's had 3 podium places. Make that 4 podium places with his P3 yesterday. And yeah, there's just 1 step missing, having taken P3s and P2s, Nico. He wants to be on the top step of the podium, and I genuinely think that there's a very good opportunity for John to take his maiden victory at some point.
For sure, but he is, for the time being, banking very, very strong points, and
Yes.
as we saw before, the elusive win obviously would be one that he would cherish very, very much. Equally, banking points in being P2, P3 means a lot, and it's about avoiding those DNFs and low point finishes that really, really help you in the championship. And John has been rewards himself by being very, very consistent. Yes. In being right in the thick of it in the championship hunt, and that certainly counts for something. And he's mixing it up with the likes of Henry Hassid, with Manu Gosner, which is really, really, really good to see.
Again, I really do. John would be the first to credit certainly a portion of his success down to the relationship he has with Matt Griffin, his driver coach. So John Dillon then in the 151 car. Currently Morihiko Isasaki, the only driver that has posted a lap time, which is a 1:47.420. Henry Hassid crosses the timing line with a 1:46.865 and therefore goes quickest. We expect the times to still come down still further, but Henry Hassid then, who had tracked John Dillon and maybe just got a little bit of a benefit from a tow from the John Dillon car, finds himself some half a second quicker than anybody else out there, and he's having to deal with traffic. The Ken Abe car that we can see right now as Henry Hassid tries to find a way by and continue this qualifying session. Drivers go out traditionally on the tyres that they raced on yesterday, then come in and change tyres. But with this qualifying session shortened to just 20 minutes, some may choose to go out on the new rubber straight away. We know that there are other drivers that choose not to do that and go out and do an installation lap, if nothing else, on old rubber, and then come back in and change to a newer set today. Pierluigi Alessandri is one of those drivers. Another one is von Skeltermar.
Yeah, definitely. Just for reference, yesterday's pole time was a 1:42.8, so we're still, well, almost 4 seconds away from that. And in Coppa Shell, in the 488s earlier, the times of yesterday were no match to those done today, so we were quicker earlier this morning for the 488s, and we kind of expect something similar here for the Coppa Shell drivers. Motohiko Isozaki, he does exactly what you predicted. He did a very, very short first stint.
Surprises me because he was very quick.
Yeah, but you know, the drivers, obviously they know that they're quick, and they all love to have a banker in the books, because you never know what happens.
Which is why I thought he might have completed the lap. But
and probably in a 30-minute qualifying session he might have done that with 10 more minutes available to him, but with only 20 minutes he prefers to come in just that little bit earlier, and he's not the only one, as we can see.
No, Ray Acosta there, centre picture. The driver that hails from Miami. He comes in. Von Skelderma's on his way out of the pit lane as we pick up on the cars that remain out on track. One of them being Michael Martin then for Maranello Motors, who's gone quicker than anyone in Sector 1 and a personal best through Sector 2. And yeah, we are not expecting the times that are on the board at the moment to be the ones that will form the sharp end of our grid for Coppa Shell, as Michael Martin crosses the timing line right now and improves by some 4/10 and is second fastest overall. This is Tibor Valent, and Tibor is on a quick one with purple Sector 1, purple Sector 2, really throwing his 296 challenge car around here, the Ferrari Budapest Rosso Corsa racer Tibor Valent. Son Benz Valent races in the Trofeo Pirelli class of the Ferrari Challenge. Tibor Valent heading to break the timing beam right now, shortens the track as much as possible by hugging the wall, and well, we get closer to where we expect the times to be, with Tibor with a 1:43.971. This is Henry Hassid, who we think now, well, we know now, is on new rubber, and therefore he will try and do it as quickly as possible. The Kessel Racing team have got Henry Hassid out with plenty of track space, so he'll do an installation lap, and then he will go for a fast timed lap, and then he'll try and park the car if he's done enough, I would think. But what do we know? Or what do I know?
Oh, that sounded very, very logical, and we've seen that approach to work to great effect for not only Hassid, but quite a few other drivers who have done exactly that. It's just nailing that lap that you want to nail, A, because of traffic, B, because of track limits. So there's lots of things that can go wrong and fall down with that plan, but of course that's the plan. And Brynjar Gosler is tracking Henry Hassid, and it's not a bad car to track when you think about how quick Henry has been over the course of the season thus far. And we can report that all 14 cars are now out on track, so traffic indeed is something that will come into play, and all of the drivers will hope that with the assistance of the team it won't affect them. Brynjar also, I think, just consciously backed down a little bit before starting the next lap, just to give herself a little bit of extra space. As we go on board, I think with John Dillon, yes indeed, and there is the telemetry. Thank you guys from the timing and the graphics and the OB van to bring that to you in 193 kilometers per hour, fifth gear, and actually quite a lot faster. And there is a car sideways, and I think that might have been Tibor Valent. Yeah. Yes, indeed. And that obviously meant that John had to lift off at a moment where you really don't want to. So that potentially already compromised in the very, very early stages. John still pushing. But probably that means that this lap won't be the one that he wants to have count come the end of the session, but he's still going through the process of getting in sync, and it's really, really great to see how he picks up speed all the way down into that right-hander in the beginning of the second sector. 250 kilometers per hour roughly is where 296 challenge peaks. There you can see that this second and third sector is much more technical than the vast majority of the first one, where you have a lot of very, very quick stretches. Here there's many, many more tight corners, and he will now get to that chicane in but a moment. That right, left, right chicane is where he's heading now, and you can see he's really, really having to reduce the speed and attack the curbs. Talked to Philip Barron the other day about how you have to approach that, and he said, you know, you really, really have to take the curb full on all three apexes. And here, complete the lap. Final corner for John Dillon.
That was great to have that almost entire lap on board with John Dillon for Great Ball Nottingham. And as Nico correctly identified, he was compromised through the exit of turn 1 with Tibor Valint having gone around. So this is most likely going to be a much more meaningful time from John Dillon. So we're into the MP Racing Garage, as you can see here, looking after the Corinna and Thomas Gosner car. All the data available to them on the screens, as you can see. They have the GPS tracker, so can see who is where on the track and make sure that they get as much track space as possible. And here comes Manuela Gosner, who rounds out this lap and goes P1 4 100ths quicker than Tibor Valint. So Manuela Gosner then once again on a good trajectory. Two drivers in the 43s, and they are Manuela Gosner and Tibor Valint. Henry Hassid is currently P3 with Motohiko Isasaki P4. But Henry Hassid is about to round out what looks like it could be a provisional P1 position, because he's gone quicker through Sector 1 and Sector 2 than anybody else, any other driver out there. So around turn 13 now, heads towards breaking the timing beam across the track here. This is a new provisional pole position from Henry Hassid, and it's by quite a margin, a 1:43.340, taken very nearly 6/10 out of Manuela Gosner. John Dillon also improving, personal best through Sector 1 and Sector 2. It's P11 for John Dillon at the moment. Expect him to vault up the virtual grid as John Dillon heads towards the timing line now, breaks the beam, and John Dillon goes P2 with a very good lap time indeed, a 1:43.491, Nico.
Yeah, especially the final sector was really, really good. He clawed back 3/10 from the Henry Hassid time in that sector. A little bit of a sideways moment there you can see at the beginning of the next lap. So let's see how much potential is still in this lap. Manu Gosner with a very, very good first sector. Second one not necessarily quite as good, as you can see from the color coding of the sectors in the graphics. Another little bit of a sideways moment, but Manu Gosner, 6.5 minutes remaining. Currently P4, she is stretching her legs and trying to improve. It was a little bit of an improvement in terms of time, but not in terms of position. But we expect her to give it another go. Lots of personal bests all across our timing screen, all across the board, but also a few TLs showing up on our timing screen, which means track limits. And you said it during the 488 quali session. If you exceed the track limits and gain an advantage during quali, that means that very lap is disallowed, and that means all the effort you put into it counts for naught.
This is Motohiko Isasaki, a very busy racing driver. Just next weekend he will be racing in the Ferrari Challenge Japan Series in Suzuka. But for now, Motohiko Isasaki enjoying the sunshine of Europe here in Spain as he heads towards the timing line now, and it's not going to be an improvement from Motohiko Isasaki. He stays P3. And I really rather think this would be the lap that potentially he may be able to improve. Henry Hassid has gone quickest with the 1:43.340 of all the drivers. A very good P2 from John Dillon, the Great Ball Nottingham driver, with a 1:43.491. And right now we're looking at Christoph Ernie, who is currently, dare I say it, languishing down there in P11, but with personal bests across Sector 1 and Sector 2. Potentially this is going to change at the conclusion of this lap for Zenith Scuderia, then run turn to do for Christoph Herney heading towards the timing line now. Let's see where he settles down, and it's not going to be P11, it's P7, with just over 4.5 minutes of the qualifying session for our Coppa Shell drivers still to run. It's Hassid from Dillon, from Isasaki, from Manuela Gosner, who has brought the car into the pit lane with merely 4.5 minutes remaining. Just some adjustments going on to the tyre pressure. I'm pretty sure that Manuela will go again. She won't be happy with P4. This is John Dillon that we're riding on board with right now. He's currently second fastest. Very, very good lap from John Dillon. Just looking at the timing screen. Sector 1 was a personal best for him. Sector 2, not quite so good, but as Nico so articulated earlier on, John can find time in the final sector. And he has this full chat flat kink, and then one more turn to do, but there is traffic there coming into the pit lane. Whether that impacted or affected him in terms of where he pointed the car, as now he goes to the timing beam, and I don't think it's going to be an improvement from John Dillon. He remains P2, and there to the very left of your picture is Matt Griffin, John's driver coach, who I rather get the impression that John had backed off, and you can almost hear Matt saying that. Whether he'll go for another timed lap before the end of this session, or whether the risk-reward calculation is worthwhile, because of course the tyres that these drivers are qualifying on, Nico, are the tyres that they will be racing on, and with the temperatures set to increase quite considerably between now and race time, it pays quite a heavy price on the rubber.
Yeah, definitely, and it's not like it's cool in this early morning hour. It's going to be really, really hot later on. Drivers out of position include the likes of Alexander Nussbaumer, who's in the pit lane. He's dead last, as you can see on the graphic, so he's certainly one of those who's out of position. Von Skeltemer, you might argue, also in P10. Tibor Valent, race winner already, down in P5. He is still pushing, and one of the drivers who's also still out there is Pierluigi Alessandri, although I get the impression he's also backed off and he's not chasing the quickest times anymore with 2 minutes 10 seconds. Yeah, that definitely Alessandri is no longer on a flying lap. Ken Abe still trying for an improvement, but other than that, currently no blisteringly quick times that we can report for you.
So the order remains Hasid, Dillon, Isosaki, Gosner, Valent, Gosner, Herney, Gosner, Alessandri, Skeltemer, Acosta, Abe, Martin, Nussbaumer. So Corinna Gosner that we follow right now, who is currently 8th fastest on her return to the Ferrari Challenge this season. It's great to have Corinna back out on track, sliding just a little bit into that turn. You can see a little bit of understeer there as the car pushes through that turn. Is anyone going to be able to take this to Henry Hasid? Manuela Gosner is not returning out on track, so best is going to be a P4 unless anyone is able to take that away. And Alexander Nussbaumer, whose luck is going from bad to worse. I saw that he'd made it out of the pit lane. However, Nico, that car was at nothing like Ferrari Challenge 296 speed.
No, we saw it. It was kind of curious because it was too late to do anything about the timing. We thought, well, maybe they want to try something and just give it another go for another lap. But yeah, I mean, he's reported now as stationary on the track, and any chance of anybody who has to pass that car with yellow flags probably means that foils their attempt. But Corinna is still pushing through the remainder of the lap. She is currently in P9. Will she be able to do anything about it? You get the indication that there is a slow car on track, and indeed that is not good news for anybody who is still pushing. And Corinna does indeed overtake Von Skeltemer, so her efforts pay off in terms of moving up to P8. There is Motohiko Izuzaki.
He is such an enigmatic character. Really, really terribly excited. I venture to say it's his best qualifying in Coppa Shell this year. Motohiko Izuzaki was Coppa Shell AM champion last year and therefore gets elevated into Coppa Shell this year. And yeah, I am pretty sure it's his best qualifying thus far. think the qualifying session is as near as damn it done, because I don't think anyone is going to be able to improve because we have a slow car on track, which means that they're going to have to avoid that car. There is the checkered flag. So the order is going to be Henry Hasid from John Dillon and Motohiko Isasaki. They are the top three. The Rotiform Pole Position Award will be going to Henry Hasid, but huge well done to John Dillon. There he is. It's a very, very big P2. He'll be starting on the front row. So Hasid from Dillon, from Isasaki, from Manuela Gosner, they are the top four. We'll bring you the full classification in just moments from now as the cars, and there is the Alexander Nussbaumer car limping its way back to the pit lane. The Go Motorsport Haupt Racing Team's driver Alexander Nussbaumer, who was a long while in the garage and in the pit lane. He did eventually make it out on track, but when he made it out on track, regrettably, not as quick as he would like to be. So John Dillon is congratulated by all the team. Matt Griffin, his driver coach, you can see in the background there. Well done, John. JD, as he's known. And what a great job he has done. That's his best qualifying. And it was a very, very creditable time, Nico, because it's only a tenth and a half away from our pole sitter, Henry Hasid.
Yeah, John really, really proves that he has come very, very far and is making strides with his race talent. Henry Hasid been a very experienced racer, very quick racer as well. And he follows up yesterday's victory with a pole position, and the Rotiform Pole Position Award will go his way.
It was just being presented to him as we cut away, but there we can see it. P1, well done, Henry. I'd like to think it's all down to my pep talk, as he was walking down the paddock earlier on, and I was able to offer my advice, Nico, which wasn't necessary.
Yeah, no question about that. Yeah, definitely. I mean,
Yeah,
he may bring a little bit of racecraft, but the majority of the credit has to go to you.
Yeah, of course.
No question. There is Thomas Gosner is looking at the final results, which sees him in P6, which is has potential.
We know Thomas Gosner. He loves racing, and actually, you see Thomas Gosner at his best when he's not qualified, perhaps as well as he would like, and then he's got to mix it in the race. So he'll be happy with that. Here, confirmation of the qualifying classification. Then Henry Hasid, P1 from John Dillon. P2, then it's Motohiko Isasaki, Manuela Gosner, Tibor Valin, Thomas Gosner, Christoph Herney, and Corinna Gosner. They're the top 8. And the remaining drivers, von Skeltermar, P9, Pierluigi Alessandri, P10, with Ken Abe, Ray Acosta, Michael Martin, and Alexander Nussbaumer occupying the next 4 positions. That's qualifying done for both Coppa Shell and 488. Thank you for watching, and we have more qualifying sessions to come in just a few moments from now.
Fa la luce? No, l'ombrello messo così. È meglio, ti copre anche di più. Esatto. Invece avete cultura camera, non ho chiesto prima, lens holder lasciamo attaccata la camera. Aspetta, se no chiedo. Lens holder secondo me ti conviene dietro. No, questo lo sapevo. Stacchi solamente la camera dal nostro, però la lascio dentro il corpo. Mi raccomando, no, questa questo porti via, questo stacchi lì, no, non lo so, volevo solo capire perché alcuni vogliono che questa rimanga dentro lo sportan, altre volte. Rimane dentro lo sportan, però sì, la stacco dall'occhio. Abbiamo già portato li lasciamo a bordo strada così faccio il furgone una volta ce lo poniamo e lasciamo a bordo. Grazie, dopo. Sì, perfetto, segnate anche quelli di ieri, così le chiavi della macchina direttamente. Grazie, ragazzi.
Hello, everyone. Good morning to you. Sorry for my laughter. It's because my director, producer, Franco Marcelli, he just makes me laugh in my ears. He's doing a great job. Thanks, Franco. He tells me jokes just before I go on the air. Welcome to Trofeo Pirelli qualifying here in Jerez. It is round 3 of the Ferrari Challenge for 2024. We're delighted that you join us for qualifying. And we are ready to rock with a mix of Pirelli and Pirelli AM drivers out there for their qualifying session. 30 minutes to set the best possible lap time that they can to give them the best possible grid starting position for their race 2 to come this afternoon. Yesterday it was a victory for Giacomo Altoe in Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli, and in Trofeo Pirelli AM it was Hendrik Viol for Scuderia Prague who was victorious. We have 20 cars that will be out there on track doing everything that they can, and there is Luca Ludwig. He is one of our Trofeo Pirelli drivers, and Luca Ludwig then a fine driver, it has to be said, and he finished yesterday P3, and we'll be hoping to go even better today. Otto Blank, driver of car number 71, he finished P7 yesterday, matching his best previous result, which came in the second race at Balaton in Hungary. The Hertha Racing driver, Otto Blank. And I had the privilege of sitting down and talking to Otto Blank earlier on in the weekend. So big thank you to my colleague Nico, who brings me a cup of tea. Bless him. We've only just started our broadcast on account of the fact that Franco Maselli, our producer, was just making me laugh so much, Nico, that we had to postpone my starting on the air for 30 seconds.
Well,
Terrible man. This is a really elaborate cup of tea, complete with serviette and my name and two with the
number one.
number one.
Number one.
Oh, how inappropriate is that?
Thank
Bless
you.
you. Bless you.
Thank you, Massimo. Thank you, everybody. Well, and it's good to start the day off with a little bit of laughter and keep the spirits up for everybody. And it's not that difficult when you're in the Ferrari Challenge paddock with lovely people in the cars, working on the cars, working all around the track, in the paddock, hospitality, and obviously our great friends in the Corsa Clienti organization who make sure that we get to enjoy this magnificent event. It's obviously not primarily for us, it's for all the people involved in the Ferrari Challenge who share the passion of the red brand from Maranello, who are so successful and so proficient. I mean, Le Mans last weekend is just one of the latest examples of how this organization and how this brand and everything that's associated with it brings out not only the best performance, but the best emotion.
15 years ago, when I was first invited to be part of the Ferrari Challenge, I was told by some eminent people in the world of motorsport, and I am talking eminent, that once you become part of the Ferrari family, you are part of a family. And I thought, yeah, that's hyperbole. But it is absolutely true. And just last weekend, as Antonio Fuoco, Miguel Molina and Nicolas Nielsen sealed yet another victory in the very top class of endurance racing at the Le Mans 24. Yes, I was absolutely thrilled for them. 2 years in a row. Well done, everyone. Let's get this qualifying underway then for Ferrari Challenge. Trofeo Pirelli and Trofeo Pirelli Am here. 30 minutes on the clock. Well, make that 29.5 minutes now on the clock for these drivers to set the best time they possibly can. You can see the very last car making its way out of the pit lane right now. Well, it is Hendrik Viol. The purple and day-glow yellowy green there of Hendrik Viol, who was victorious yesterday in Coppa Shell, who's being right royally followed by Hanno Laskowski out of the pit lane. So the drivers, if tradition is the case, they will go out on the tyres that they raced on yesterday. Nico, they'll do a couple of installation laps perhaps, maybe a bit more. Then they will come in and go to a fresh set of tyres, which will be the ones. So expect the quickest times to come. Certainly, I would suggest in the second half of the qualifying session. But then that's just my ambition in terms of getting something right and how I think it will be in the qualifying session. I've been proven wrong so many times in the past, but generally speaking, that's what we think will happen.
Yeah, and you could see how crowded the track is in patches. Everybody is trying, and I almost thought they would be coming together. And indeed, of our 20 drivers, 17 have already come out early, and that is surely, I feel very safe in agreeing with you.
Wow.
In many things, and this one in particular is get out early, get the brakes up to temperature, become one with the car on this new day, get a real good feeling for how the track behaves and how the track evolves and grip levels and any peculiar minor things that might have changed since the race late yesterday. So we have a very intense first part of the qualifying session. Then it will get a little bit more quiet and calm in the middle or towards the second third of the session, where everybody will come back in, change to the new set of Pirelli P0s, and then we will see a very, very frantic phase where all the cars have come down again. Traffic will be very intense. Everybody will try to minimize the time they spend on the track, because it means taking the peak condition of the Pirelli P0s for the qualifying, and then not take any more out of the tires because they have to last the race later on.
Absolutely.
So that's the ideal plan. We always have a few drivers who go against the grain and just do one stint with the new set of tires. So
we're running the telemetry on Marco Zanazzi, Now, as you can see, he climbs towards 170 kilometers per hour before braking on to 8,500 revs. Back on the brakes again. Fifth gear for Marco Zanazzi at the moment. Currently ninth fastest in qualifying. So there you can see him hard on the brakes once again through that right-hander. Third gear, and now accelerating. Blast of the throttle before the next right-hander, and now he can really give it some beans, as it were, as Marco Zanazzi into the chicane, down into third gear, still taking nearly 85 kilometers per hour through the middle part of the sector, and then accelerating again before the final turn, where another heavy braking zone here, hard on the brakes, down into third gear again, and then set yourself up with a trajectory that's perfect. Give it everything you can, maybe reaching 260 kilometers per hour come the end of this straight. Well, 237 as he brakes and turns into that right-hander. The quickest driver out there at the moment is Luca Ludwig, and then it is Marco Zanazzi, the driver that we were on board with just a moment ago, and we can see now, send a picture, driving the number 69 car for CDP Pinetti Motorsport. Now this is yesterday's Trofeo Pirelli Am victor. Hendrik Viol drives the Scuderia Prague team, and I have to say it's one of the more distinctive Ferrari 296 challenge cars out there in terms of colour scheme, and Hendrik Viol knows how to pedal that car, Nico. And he's having a really, really good season. He is a truly charming gentleman, lovely man to spend time with and have a discussion with, and you can't go anywhere near the Scuderia Prague garage in the paddock without being invited to succumb to their hospitality, which is certainly free-flowing. And yes, I have to say I take a wide berth sometimes because you can get involved there, and you wouldn't be leaving there. Great food, great drink, great company there. The team is led by Ivo Horn, and of course Scuderia Prague over the years, Nico, have had so much success. And going back to, we're having something of a history lesson here, and it was 15 years ago, as I mentioned, that when I first came into the Ferrari Challenge, in the days of, I think it was Robert Purgel that was driving for that particular team, and he was another very successful driver, friend.
Yeah, absolutely. Others include the Vibo family.
Yes,
Matthews and Miroslav.
Yes.
And many others. So yeah, Scuderia Prague, you always, when you come to the Ferrari Challenge, and please do it. Come and visit us, and I'll finish with the calendar in a moment. You always see the Czech flag proudly flying over the paddock, so you always know where the Scuderia Prague team is. And as Henrik Viol is finishing the lap, no, actually not, he was just relegated. He is now on the trajectory to finish the lap, as Luca Engstler has put it onto P1. He was just racing in a different climate zone yesterday at the Nürburgring.
Amazing, isn't it?
Through the fog. He is here today and taking part, and Henrik Viol, true to form, puts in a banker, which is a 151.167, which is currently P1 in class. So, just to finish the thought, come join us. We have
we'd love you to.
Portimao in 2 weeks' time. We still have the south of France in Le Castellet, and if you don't like the south and the warm weather, which I don't know why you wouldn't, but anyway, there is also the Nürburgring at the beginning of September, where it's going to be snow or cold or rain,
frost,
or whatever,
ice,
fog,
you name it.
And then there is the glittering, glamorous, all-embracing Ferrari World Finals at the end of October in Imola. So it's all there. Come join us. It's a very welcoming paddock. It's a great camaraderie. It's great. You can access almost anything. If you really want, you can help the mechanics in the garage. Ask first, maybe, that would be kind.
Don't try this at home.
Don't try this at home, but please come visit us. The Ferrari family really
Have you finished with this advert yet?
No, because let's go to the advert which is on the track. There is Marco Zanazzi, who had a very interesting race, dare I say, yesterday.
Yes, it was.
Which involved, if I remember correctly, an incorrect starting position, a drive-through penalty, and still
a good finishing position.
Indeed. Lots of drama, lots of action in the Ferrari Challenge, which is also part of the allure of the championship.
Oh, it is. And, to reinforce what you were saying, you would be very welcome, and, we'd love to see you in the paddock. Come and join us in the broadcast suite. You can see how glamorous television really isn't. I'm joking. We'd love to see you. Right, Luca Engstler then, who, as Nico was saying, just yesterday, well, he was driving through the fog and the ice and the hail and goodness knows what else in another series, but he's here today and he's currently the fastest with a 1:42.324. He made his debut in the Ferrari Challenge, of course, at Balaton in Hungary. And Luca Engstler is one of these young whippersnapping type drivers who is, you know, really a talent, and great to have him in the Ferrari Challenge. Talking of young talents, Giacomo Altoe, who was victorious yesterday, Nico, has yet to set a lap, so he's leaving it until the second part of our qualifying session before he goes out. I say second part; it's not split into two. I'm talking about how the drivers and teams kind of split the time. We've got 21 minutes remaining in this qualifying session. The session which is being led by Luca Engstler for the Pirelli drivers, Hendrik Viol for the Pirelli Am drivers, and here indeed is said young whippersnapper Luca Engstler, who's going quicker than he has ever gone before around this circuit in this Ferrari Challenge 296 car. Luca Engstler then, driver of car number 6, then accelerates away, gets the car a little bit sideways, almost picks up a bit of gravel. Such is his utter determination through the final turn to be still quicker, and there he lost significant time, Nico, in that final turn.
Yeah, it certainly looks like he certainly lost lots of time in the final sector, but he's going to go again.
Don't know whether Luca will have ever raced here. I'm thinking of Luca Engstler's racing career and what he has raced in. I'm just not absolutely convinced that he would have raced in Jerez.
Well, we will throw
caution to the wind.
Caution to the wind, and we will boot up the research machine and try and give that piece of information to you. Let's focus on the quali session in the meantime, as we see activity in the pit lane. Pirelli P0s being swapped on the number 5 car, and that is obviously the one of Laura Villas, one of our Pirelli M drivers.
Yes, and if you look at that and think, well, that's not the Laura Villas car that I'm used to seeing, you'd be absolutely right. She's driving a different coloured car to the normal black Laura Villas car. Here is Luca Engstler going once again then for Go Motorsport and Engstler team, and this lap is not going to be quite as good as the one which gave him a provisional pole position of 1:42.324. So Luca Engstler then, a welcome addition to the Ferrari Challenge. Great to have him here with us. So 2 Pirelli drivers, a P1 and P3 overall, but P1 and P2 in class. And Luca dives into the pit lane, and here comes our research machine that has been working in the 30 seconds, perhaps even less, that I posed the question: has Luca Engstler raced in Jerez before?
Yes, he has. It was in the GT Winter Series, just in the beginning of 2023. So, yes, indeed. But it is absolutely true that he has never raced here in the Ferrari Challenge and the Challenge 296. As we move our attention to a slider of a driver and a star and a super guy as well. Philip Barron very much exploring the track here, and with the number 91 car, he is the driver turned team boss, turned headmaster, and now all at once, Philip Barron. Such a great guy, and he took us around a great lap of the of the circuit, and you will see all of that later in the race coverage later on. We're still putting the final touches on the edit. Check it out. But for the moment, we check him out on the track.
He is really pushing hard. He's sector 1, quicker than anyone. Philip Barron, who, well, he's been around seemingly for a long time in the Ferrari Challenge. He knows the Ferrari Challenge utterly inside out. Of course, before him, his father was involved in the Ferrari Challenge, and Philip has aspirations for his son to be in the Ferrari Challenge as well. And Nico, this is looking like it could be a very good lap indeed from Philip. Hugs the outside and then takes that kink almost full chat flat. 2 purple sectors so far for the man from Austria then, who rounds the final turn now. Philip Barron will head and point the car towards the timing beam then. The time to beat, a 1:42.324, and he does it by 2.5 tenths. It's a 1:42.063 for Philippe Barron. Please may I just say, though, we have not yet seen a time from Giacomo Altoe or Bence Valins.
Yes, and I also don't think that we've seen the best time from Philippe Barron. We saw him sliding a little bit towards the beginning of the lap, and I think he has quite a few more tenths in him and in the car, and it's so great to see him work on the car. It's such a great car. Everybody tells us, from the Shell M drivers to the Pirelli drivers, everybody really enamored with the car. And at the end of Sector 1, nope, that is not going to be an improvement. 5 tenths down on his previous attempt. So, and you can already see that Philippe Barron has noticed that, been notified of that through his information systems, through the team, and therefore he's not pushing and stressing the tires this time around.
Who would be brave enough to coach Philippe Barron?
Not even Philippe Barron would be brave enough to coach Philippe Barron. Yes, he would. No, I don't. I think Philippe Barron in some ways is a very easy person to coach, because he expects so much from himself. So you never have to motivate him. You never have to push him, because he will push himself more than you could ever try.
He certainly pushes. He certainly pushes his drivers. There are some fabulous stories to be told about how Philippe Barron is able to motivate people within the team, and he does it very well indeed. And here we can see the number 9 car then of Danilo Del Favaro, who's very quick, Nico, with almost a perfect Sector 1 and Sector 2. Now, if he can really handle the chicane well, this could be, for Trofeo Pirelli Am, an improvement on his previous best time, which is a 1:43.942. Hendrik Viol, who sat for so long at the top of the Pirelli Am standings in terms of qualifying, has been relegated to P3. Danilo Del Favaro crosses the timing line now, and Hanno Laskowski, just a few hundred meters ahead of him, had gone even quicker than anybody else with a 1:43.327 in Pirelli Am. So it's Hanno Laskowski from Danilo Del Favaro, from Hendrik Viol, and then Gianmarco Mazzolletti.
Indeed, and quite a German-speaking first few rows for the time being, but that might all change over the next 14 minutes plus whatever lap you are on. Bence Valent, one of those who's come out. Klaus de Branson, one of the not so lucky people for the last few races, both in Balaton and yesterday. Always had the pace, never had the luck, and in some cases really things just went the Murphy's Law way of motor racing. What could go wrong went wrong. Not so for Hendrik Viol. We just saw he just completed his outlap and is now back in the timing chase as he starts the new lap. Turn 1 done, turn 2, and that very quick turn 3, and then from here on out it's a very long and winding part of the track, which you almost entirely go full throttle through the kinks and turns all the way into the hairpin, but that's already in Sector 2. So by the time he hits that first timing line, we will have an indication of where he sits in terms of his ability to attack the best times on this lap. There is the number 80 car, Angelo Fontana, currently P5 in class, and the timing for Sector 1 and Sector 2 certainly indicate that he is quick, he is flying. Final turn, he will head to the timing line. Can he do something about the very best times in Shell-Am? Pirelli Am? He is P2, just marginally slower on this attempt than Hanno Laskowski, 1:43.681. So has leapfrogged Danilo Del Favaro and Hendrik Viol.
Doing a very good job out there in qualifying, of which we have 12.5 minutes remaining. Philippe Barron is the quickest driver of anyone out there at the moment, at 1:42.063, but he's in the pit lane. Now, Luca Engstler is on his way out of the pit lane as we continue to watch Angelo Fontana then. Danilo Del Favaro, Nico, has decided that he has done enough and he's out of the car. I can see from one of the feeds we get into our studio here as we look at the number 88 car of Armin Arifpour. Armin Arifpour then driving that 488 challenge, that 296 challenge car. And Armin Arifpour for the Riller and Schnauk team. Heading towards the line. And crosses it. Currently 16th overall. Angelo Fontana again on another seemingly quick trajectory. Sector 1 is a really long sector here. And he rounds that out by going purple. Sector 2 is quite a short sector relative. Now into Sector 3. So Angelo Fontana then, the Rosso Corsa racer who's trying to wrestle away that Pirelli AM provisional P1 position from Hanno Laskowski. Is he going to be able to do it on this occasion? Well, he's got one more turn to do. That is the final turn. He accelerates, feathers the throttle on the exit of the turn, and heads towards breaking the timing beam. The time he's looking for is a 1:43.327. And, well, Angelo Fontana then with a 1:43.681. Here's Laura Villas then, and going to get caught up in traffic here, I rather suggest. Marco Sanassi, I think, is the car right in front of Laura Villas. And Laura driving a different coloured car to her normal one, driving the number 5 car for Zenith Scuderia. And we'll head towards the timing line now. Pink, Sector 1 and Sector 2. Or purple, I should say, but lost time in the final sector. So it is Hanno Laskowski from Angelo Fontana and Danilo Del Favaro. Hendrik Viol at the moment within class. It would be a second row start for him. For the Pirelli drivers, it's Philip Barron and Luca Engstler who are the top two, and Philip Barron's on his way out of the pit lane, I believe, Nico.
Yeah, but Hendrik Viol also started from P4 in class yesterday, so didn't have it all his own way in qualifying, but in a very dramatic and eventful race, he certainly made the most of it and came through. But as I say that, he vaults to the very front of the class standings. P3 overall, P1 for Hendrik Viol in the AMS, and Klaus Brunson just slots in behind him at P2, a 1:43.250, running behind Herbert Geis. And we go back to Luca Engstler, who yesterday ran on the Nordschleife, a very, very different climatic experience. And even though the Jerez circuit is undulating, it's nothing like the Nürburgring Nordschleife, I dare venture to say. But great to have Luca Engstler, DTM race winner and super nice guy, here as part of the Ferrari Challenge. And he is rounding out the final turn, following the Giacomo Altoe car. Giacomo hasn't set a real good time or any significant time in this session today. He did take pole position yesterday, so we expect him to be a much more significant part for the remaining 8.5 minutes of this session.
I think that's fair. Hendrik Viol then. Still further improvement to come from Hendrik Viol as he breaks the timing beam. Indeed, it is a further improvement at 1:42.456. Just to put that into context, Nico, he's third fastest overall. So mixing it with the Pirelli drivers in terms of his pace, very, very good. And he is only one of 3 drivers that has put the lap times into the 42s. So Hendrik Viol and the car that's engineered by Scuderia Prague, they're doing a combo, very good job. Now, of course, Hendrik is out there having to pedal the car, isn't he? But he is doing a good job, as indeed is Giacomo Altoe. Now, is he going to be the master of the one-hit wonder when it comes to qualifying? You know, comes out, banks a supreme lap, parks the car, has a coffee, and thinks about the race ahead. Giacomo Altoe then victorious yesterday. At the moment, he's very nearly 3 3/4 tenths up on Philip Barron, so I would suggest that Giacomo Altoe is doing the job that we would expect of him.
Yeah, but there is traffic ahead of him. Luca Engstler also with a very, very quick first 2 sectors. So, but I think that Giacomo should be just all right. Although never know. It might just come good for him in terms of the lap just finishing at the right moment. I think he's all right. Let's see where he puts the car for the time being. And indeed, it is a P1, new provisional pole position. Luca Engster slots in behind him, but it's half a second between the two. A 1:41.450 for Giacomo Altoe. And certainly the lap that he's currently on, he's not pushing, probably because of the traffic in front of him. Yes. So, you know, he might just decide, or he and the team might just decide to give it a little bit of a rest for this lap, to keep the tires and keep the brakes up to temperature, but not push too much, and then see if there is another challenge and he has to go out about it in earnest, or if what he did is just enough.
Yeah, two drivers into the 41s. Giacomo Altoe and Luca Engstler. They are both in the 41s. Philip Barron relegated to P3 with a 1:42.063. For our AM drivers, it's Hendrik Viol from Marco Sanazzi and Klaus Sebranson. Otto Blank just going through on our picture there. And here we can see Giacomo Altoe doing exactly as you said, Nico, just slowing down, allowing the temperature to recede a little bit in terms of the brakes before perhaps he will go again. I can tell you that Hendrik Viol has decided to park the car in the pit lane. You can see from one of the feeds that we get into our studio here. There is Philip Barron. He will be determined until the checkered flag flies to try and take anything he possibly can. And here is Bence Valent, who's currently way down the order relative to where we would expect him to be. So we're expecting good times to come from Bence Valent. But a very worthy point that you made, Nico, is that the drivers have got to navigate quite some traffic that's still out there on track. Of our 20 cars, to my knowledge, there are still 16 out there on track.
Yeah, absolutely. And Benz, he had his previous lap time disallowed due to track limits, and now he's completing this lap with 5 minutes and just a few seconds remaining. This will certainly be an improvement. Will it trouble the absolute front runners? I don't quite think so. And indeed, he slots in P4. 6.5 tenths behind the Giacomo Altoe time. So if we can find a few more tenths on this next lap, maybe a front row start is in store. Luca Ludwig with a personal best first sector. Second sector not quite as good. He is currently in a, by his standards, lowly P5 position. He's also trying to move up the order, and that kind of puts the pressure on the other Pirelli drivers, even though yes, Luca Engstler and Philip Barron are showing as in the pit lane, and therefore I think with the 4.5 minutes remaining, I think they will no longer take part in this session and won't be able to respond. Luca Ludwig, personal best improvement in terms of time, but not in terms of position. And that means I expect him to try and move up into at least row 2 of the grid later for the race.
Philip Barron has decided enough is enough, and he's out of the car and in the garage, as you can see. And all eyes on the timing screen as to who is doing what. Giacomo Altoe remains the quickest with a 1:41.450. And Nico, the drivers that would worry Giacomo Altoe, I would suggest, are they've pretty much parked the cars, perhaps with the exception of Bence Valent. So Giacomo Altoe is out there trying to improve still further, but he's not going to stress the car and tyres too much, I would think, because we only have 3.5 minutes of the session remaining. And Giacomo Altoe with a 1:41.450, really don't think that anyone is going to trouble him, perhaps with the exception of Luca Ludwig and maybe Bence Valent. They remain out there. And there is Luca Ludwig. This lap is not going to be the one to do it.
No, indeed. One advantage of those who are still chasing lap times is that now traffic is getting a little bit less because some drivers have decided to come into the pit lane, so there are fewer cars out there. Very good first sector, meanwhile, from Klaus Sebranson in the Ams. Also decent second sector, so there is still a potential for him to leapfrog Hendrik Viol, potentially. Luca Ludwig finished the lap, as you said, is not an improvement, so potentially Luca will have one more go at this. Certainly doesn't look like he's slowed down yet. There is the Klaus Sebranson car. Final sector, just one more turn to do. He would love to get the pole position in class because it gives him not only a nice Rotiform pole position award, it also gives him a championship point, and I think Klaus Sebranson can have any good luck that he can get. He would love to take it. and he is 1/100th slower this time around than Hendrik Viol. And I rather think that's qualifying done for him, and yeah, he's not pushing anymore.
I mean, it's still a very impressive lap.
Absolutely. Absolutely, but looking at our timings wheel, I think that was the last challenge to
Well
one
done,
of
Hendrik.
our top positions.
Forgive me, he gave us the thumbs up, Nico. Hendrik Viol, who's on the pit perch of the Scuderia Prague team. He would have been watching with great focus on what Klaus Sebranson was doing, because, of course, Klaus Sebranson getting within a 10th of the time that was set by that man that you could see there, Hendrik Viol. Meantime, here is James Owen removing his hands device and crash helmet. Where is James Owen in the order? P7 in class. Well done, James. So, Giacomo Altoe, Luca Engster, the top two in Pirelli Am, Hendrik Viol and Klaus Sebranson. There's Gianmarco Marzialetti, Nico, inside the garage. P11 in class for the Trofeo Pirelli Am driver, Gianmarco, whose garage is situated right next door to our broadcast suite. And there is Andrew and Philip Morrow. Andrew Morrow, who certainly didn't have the best time of it yesterday. It's P8 in class. And Giacomo Altoe then climbs out of the car with a 141.450. It'll be yet another Rotiform pole position award to be added to his collection of those. He's very happy with the team, very happy with the car, and congratulations shared all round, of course, because as a racing driver, you win and lose with your team colleagues as well. So well done to Giacomo. He's a truly lovely young man. And there is Laura Villas, and Laura, driving a spare car, has finished P10 within class from her qualifying session for Zenith Scuderia. So there are 10 minutes remaining, and the only cars out there on track are Ben Svalint, Klaus Sebranson, and Hanno Laskowski. They will be able to finish the lap that they are on. But as Nico has said, as near as makes no difference, the qualifying session is over. Checkered flag is out now. That was qualifying from our Trofeo Pirelli and Trofeo Pirelli Am drivers. Still qualifying to come for our Coppa Shell Am drivers. And here a super slow-mo of our top driver then, Giacomo Altoe. So that super slow-mo was the car driven by this man. Giacomo Altoe then, having done for ML Ferrari Racing, racing team with some pedigree, it has to be said. And this was also fascinating about the Ferrari Challenge, is the supremely high level of drivers and teams as well. And there is Elisa, who will be presenting Giacomo Altoe with the Rotiform Pole Position Award. And there is the number 89 car of Klaus Sebranson for Formula Racing, about to round out the final lap, I think, in qualifying. Will it be an improvement? It jolly well will, right at the knockings of qualifying. I want to say a huge well done to our team in the OB truck for picking that up, because I hadn't looked at the sector times, and actually, Nico, the sector times wouldn't have alluded to that coming.
No, indeed, and it was not even a personal best until the final sector. And Klaus Sebranson, I mean, he was 1/100th down. Now he's the better part of 1/10th up. So really, a little bit out of the blue.
Yeah,
but
took
I
me
mean,
by surprise.
Huge respect to Klaus Sebranson. He obviously has to take another lap out of his tires to do it, but he improves. He gets that. One extra point for the championship, and well done to him. P5 overall, relegates Hendrik Viol to P2 in class, P6 overall. There is Amin Arifpour, the final driver, to complete this session alongside Klaus Sebranson. And
wow,
that is a final exclamation point to this quali session.
And a reminder to us that just because the checkered flag has come out, the session is not over. And I have to say, I was looking at the timing screen, and I didn't see the sector times lighting up to inform me that Klaus Sebranson was going to potentially put it onto P1, but he did. We'll get the full classification for you in just a few moments as we look at the lovely backdrop there, and just proof actually that the circuit is more undulating than perhaps the television pictures ordinarily would show you. Giacomo Altoe then P1, Luca Engstler P2, Philip Barron P3, Benz Valent P4, and Luca Ludwig P5. That's the qualifying classification for our Trofeo Pirelli drivers. For our Pirelli Am drivers, right in the final seconds of the qualifying session, Klaus Branson puts it P1 ahead of Hendrik Viol, Marco Zanassi, Hanno Laskowski, Angelo Fontana, Danilo Del Favaro, James Owen, and Andrew Morrow are P7 and P8. Beyond them, we find Herbert Geis, Laura Villars, Gianmarco Marzioletti, Andreas Berg Sorensen, Otto Blank, David Akabadze, and Armin Arifpour, rounding out all of our 20 drivers in Ferrari Challenge, Trofeo Pirelli, and Trofeo Pirelli Am. We have Coppa Shell qualifying to come in but a while, but from our Trofeo Pirelli and Pirelli Am qualifying, we are done until their race to come this afternoon. From Nico and from myself, thank you so much for being part of qualifying. Make sure you join us for Coppa Shell Am qualifying and for the races a little bit later today. Bye-bye for now.
anche perché sono pratico. Vedi che guarda, veramente da morire. Tanto non si niente del gusto.
Di camera ogni minuto.
Ciao, Totò! Come va?
Hello everyone, welcome to round 3 of Ferrari Challenge for 2024 here at the Jerez circuit in Spain. We're about to get the qualifying session underway for our 20 Coppa Shell AM drivers who will take to the track to try and set the best possible time they can in this qualifying session, which will give them the best possible starting position on the grid for their second race of the weekend, which will come later on today. It was a very interesting Coppa Shell AM race yesterday, and we were expecting much of the same today. Our calendar then, from here we head off to Portimao in Portugal, then La Castellet in the south of France, before Nürburgring in Germany and Imola in the Emilia-Romagna region of Italy for our round 7 and of course our finale mondiale. So who was victorious yesterday? Zeus Grimpias, then the rookie driver who's made his debut in the Ferrari Challenge this year, and it was second place for Eric Cheong. Track temperature is 32 degrees, the air temperature is 29, and there is zero wind around to cool any of us at the moment. So really very, very nice weather conditions here in this part of Spain, famed, of course, for sherry manufacture region here. And all the drivers getting ready to get out there. The pit lane is a hub of activity right now. As I say, some 20 drivers that will take to the track for this qualifying session are Coppa Shell AM drivers. Their 30-minute plus 1 lap race to come a little bit later. Andrea Levy then, as you can see, final stages of preparation, the radio communications going in, and then it will be the balaclava, followed by the hands device and crash helmet, and then where are we? Just about a minute and a half from the green flag showing at the end of the pit lane. And lining up, ready to get out straight away is Shintaro Akatsu, the Ineco driver. Driver of car number 115, who finished the race yesterday in P5. He'll be hoping to improve upon that today. And there you can see the car of Lisa Clark, well-travelled racer, who races not only here in Europe but also in North America as well. And Lisa Clark, you can just see her to the very right-hand side of your picture with the sunglasses on. And Lisa Clark, Coppa Shell AM champion in North America. The 104 car of Andreas Koenig, and there is Andreas Koenig patiently waiting inside the car. He gives us a thumbs up. The Go Motorsport Haupt Racing Team driver Andreas Koenig. And in the 104 car yesterday, good pole position, a good P3 result at the end of the race. He set his account out very well at the beginning of the year by taking a race win at Mugello in the first race. And Andreas Koenig in a very good position in the Drivers' Championship points, and he'll be hoping to bank ever more important points into his tally thus far. There, the 171 car then of Andrea Levy. And this is Mutlu Tarzev, the 134 driver who drives for Emil Frey Racing. So Mutlu Tarzev, whose best result was a podium P3 in the second race in Balaton. And engine being advised to fire up now and get ready to go out qualifying. Stephen Earle just passing us on the left-hand side of the grid, or left-hand side of the pit lane, I should say. And we go green right now. The flag is waved, and Shintaro Akatsu then will be the first of those to get out there on track, followed by Jan Sandman and Stephen Earle. Jan Sandman new into the Ferrari Challenge in Europe for this year, and delighted to welcome him. We first met Stephen Earle in Ferrari Challenge racing when he took part in the Winter Challenge earlier on this year in Yas Marina in Abu Dhabi. So the driver that was victorious yesterday is this driver, Zeus Grimpias, driving for the Ineco Ripardo Corsa Ram team. Absolutely new to racing the Ferrari Challenge. Made his debut this year in Mugello, and well, set his stall out pretty early on, it has to be said, and really hasn't put a foot wrong. Truthfully, he's had 3 wins out of 5 race starts, and he had 1 non-finish and a P2 to add to his tally, which gives him a very good position in the Drivers' Championship points, and he makes his way up the hill now. It's reminiscent a little bit of the Spielberg circuit in Austria, where you climb uphill into turn number 1. Of course, you miss out on turn number 1 when you're exiting the pit lane, and alongside me is Nico Spalek, who as usual, brings gifts by way of refreshment. Thank you.
We all do our part, and it is a team effort, not only in the pit lane and for the cars, drivers and teams, but also for us. Yes, that turn one, and we will get to it certainly when we talk about the race, somewhat like the turn one at Spielberg, with the one exception that unlike in Spielberg where there is lots of tarmac runoff, here there is a large, deep and wide gravel bed, and if you're on the outside of that turn in Spielberg, first lap, you may have noticed that some drivers take a lot of liberty with that track limit and go very wide. Not so here in Jerez, because you will find yourselves beached in the gravel and your race over very quickly. There is the very iconic livery on the Lisa Clark 296 Pelon Racing, engineering the car here in the Ferrari Challenge Europe. And there is the 198 machine of Eric Chung.
We spoke to Eric, did we not, earlier in the weekend, and you can see his wife Corinna just to the back of the picture. Eric Chung has raced, to my knowledge, in every region of the Ferrari Challenge, perhaps with the exception of the UK. And yeah, very, very well-traveled Ferrari Challenge racer, and has been with the series for a long, long time. And yeah, he had a good time of it yesterday. Nico taking a P2, a good podium finish to match the P2, and of course the race win. That pair of results that he had at Balaton in Hungary. So Eric Chung in a purple patch of form. I wonder how many more P's I can get into my description, but yeah, doing very, very well at the moment and really enjoying his racing. And you know, you'd struggle to find anyone more passionate about the Ferrari brand than Eric Chung, and more passionate about Ferrari Challenge racing overall.
Yes, absolutely. Really, really involved in many facets of the Corsa Client universe that this Ferrari Challenge competition is part of. And so many great drivers, so many people who really, really love to be involved with Ferrari and with the challenge. And every time we talk about not only the new car, but the atmosphere in the paddock, the eyes of those involved inevitably light up, and you can sense how much they really enjoy being here and being part of the action on the track and everything that goes around in the paddock. And well, the first 4.5 minutes have clicked off our clock, and Shintaro Katsu, who we follow, has put it on provisional pole. We're still far away from the times that we expect at the end of this session. But it's never wrong to have a good banking lap.
No.
And Andrea Levy is one of those who have figured significantly in the challenge and in the season thus far. He had a very, very forgettable day yesterday. It was good qualifying, but the race really, really didn't go his way, and therefore he has work to do in terms of getting his championship chase back on track. And 2 purple sectors, Sector 1, Sector 2, certainly are a testament to the fact that he is going about his business in this qualification with earnest, early and vehemently. And he's completing the lap. And the current pole time provisional was a 1:48.796, and Andrea Levy just over half a second quicker on this time around.
And as you indicated, we are going to see times come tumbling down from where they are right now. Basically, what normally happens in a qualifying session is drivers like Jan Sandman, who we're following now, the Kessel Racing driver, basically they go out on a set of tyres from yesterday just to get everything up to temperature and get themselves with the eye in, if you like, for the circuit before they'll come into the pit lane, Nico, and they will put a new set of Pirelli tyres on, and then they will go out for sort of qualifying proper. But a point you made earlier on in the broadcast is the fact that drivers do like to put a banker lap in, because we have seen, have we not, where qualifying sessions have been interrupted by yellow flags and even by red flags. And you know what, sometimes it's better to have a little bit of an insurance policy in the bag just in case, because although, 23 minutes may seem like a very long time, it's not a long time, and it goes by in a flash. And therefore, if something untoward should happen, to know that you've at least put something on the clock and you have a good qualifying time relative, then sometimes it can pay dividends.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Jerez circuit, certainly with all those gravel beds, almost entices you to, pulls you in. And
it's a magnetic quality almost.
Absolutely. And where in the race you have a car beached in the gravel bed, it would bring out the safety car. Well, a safety car is no use if you're trying to set the best one single lap. So that's why a red flag is more frequent in qualifying, because there is really no point in running the qualifying when you can't set a quick lap. So that's why they rather hold qualifying when we have a car beached like that. And thus far, and we're jinxing it now, we haven't had a single of those interruptions over the weekend. So, well, let's see if we can keep that streak going. 5, 4,
no,
3,
don't say
2,
it.
1.
Andrea Levy has just gone even faster with a 1:46.198. I know you're across all the data, as you so often are. Best time yesterday, Nico, in qualifying for our Coppa Shell drivers was a
143.7, engineered by Zoe Scrimpius for the Nico Reparto Corse RAM team. So we're around 2.5 seconds away from that for the time being. But there is, as an apropos, there is the Zoe Scrimpius car.
With a bit more rubber on the track, do you think we could see times even better than yesterday? Because, of course, all the categories ran yesterday in qualifying and races. The Coppa Shell AM drivers have got the privilege, if that's the right word, to be qualifying last on today's program. So they've had the benefit of 2 qualifying sessions before them. There was no rain to wash anything away from overnight. So, the track should be in as good a condition now as it can be. So will these drivers be able to take advantage of that in terms of the times that we see on the clock?
Well, recent history from the previous quali sessions indicates that the track is indeed a little bit quicker than it was yesterday. We're talking about a few tenths maybe. So Scrimpius not yet at real qualifying speed on this time around. So yes, we would probably expect that 143.7 to potentially be in jeopardy of being not vaporized, but beaten potentially. And one who had a really, really good showing yesterday was Jan Sandman. We got to know him during the Winter Challenge in the Middle East, where which is not part of the European or any other of the regional calendars, but is an opportunity for all the drivers and the teams to get extra track time and
shakedown
and just celebrate the fact and celebrate the allegiance with Ferrari at a time where there is not a lot of racing in the European climate zone. So Jan Sandman, we met there, and he really, really had a very good day yesterday. Finished P4 in qualifying and finished P4 in the race, so very respectable. As we take a look at the red, no green, no white car of Andreas Koenig. Very interesting livery.
I'm not sure he got that chicane absolutely right. He might be a tad disappointed with his accuracy through that chicane. Let's see what he can do here. The time he's aiming for is a 1:46.198 for Andreas Koenig. That would see him better what has been best so far. And I think he's going to do that with this lap as he crosses the timing beam now. No, he didn't. He stays second. It was a 1:46.509. So what I was saying about, I didn't feel he was quite accurate through the chicane. He didn't seem to get that quite right. So he's going to have to go again.
Yeah, for sure, and he will. And Andrea Levy, he is very quick, half a second quicker than the previous best time, which is his own time, a 1:46.198, and that will become a 1:45.760. So making further inroads towards the time that we expect to stand at the end of the qualifying session. And this segues very, very nicely. The picture of the 134 car of Mutlu Taza, which was momentarily stationary in the pit lane. You alluded to it earlier. We expect the cars to come in, change to a new set of Pirelli P0s, and then go about the business of really attacking the top times. And
Here we
one
can
of
see that being conducted just as it was almost like you'd planned that.
let's say there is some previous experience in the Ferrari Challenge. And Andreas Koenig, we've seen him put in a first banker lap, and we see him now going about his business with even more tenacity. 2/10 quicker than the current pole time from Andrea Levy. And now we can see if Andreas does indeed heed your advice on taking the chicane a little bit differently, and that looked a lot more tidy.
I agree. This could be a good lap from Andreas Koenig for Gohm Motorsport Haupt Racing Team then. And great to see the Haupt Racing Team in the Ferrari Challenge, led of course by Manuel Reuter, former DTM champion and fine racing driver, as Andreas Koenig does go fastest with a 1:45.464, Nico, taking 3/10 out of the previous best time from Andrea Levy. So it is Koenig from Levy from Skrimpias from Akatsu, and then Josef Schumacher 5th fastest at the moment. Make that 6th fastest as Maurizio Pittori goes quickest. As Germana then, who is Zeus's partner, was offering words of advice inside the car. And Zeus Skrimpias with a new set of Pirelli P0s going onto that car, takes on board some well-needed fluid, I would say, and he will be back out to try and better the times that are on the board at the moment, and he's certainly well capable of doing that. 17 minutes remaining in this qualifying session. We're yet to see Eric Chung out there, we're yet to see Roland Hurtner out there, and we're yet to see Lisa Clark out there.
Indeed, Andreas Koenig already top of the times, and again a purple first sector. It will be interesting if he will continue and finish that lap, or if he will decide that this one little improvement on this set of tires is just not worth it to go around the track once more. So we will find out in but 15 or 20 seconds, but for the time being Andreas Koenig is still very much pushing, so indication maybe that he will go around it. Yes, he goes out to the wide line, entering that final turn. You can just see on the left-hand side where the pit entry was. He didn't make use of that alternative and option, and he is going for the timing line. A 1:45.464 becomes a 1:45.038. Half a second quicker once again, and very good final sector. So there is still lots of life in that set of Pirelli P0s.
Yep. Talal Sha'er we can see in the 124 car now for Scuderia Lebanon. Also races in the North American series. He's got traffic ahead of him, and I think that was probably the car of Alvaro Ramos. Now whether that will have impacted the 124 car. Talal having taken a podium in Balaton in race 1. Yesterday his race was not a good one. It's one he would rather forget and get on with the business for today. Purple sectors in sector 1 and sector 2 as he heads towards breaking the timing beam and goes from P11 to 3rd fastest. So Talal Sha'er then 3rd fastest of all of our drivers at the moment, some 20 drivers, and with the exception of 6 drivers, they're all out there on the track. Roland Hurtner is improving as well, Nico, as he makes his way into the chicane here. He has purple sector 1, purple sector 2. He's currently 17th fastest. We expect that to probably change at the conclusion of this lap, as he, from a personal perspective, goes better than he has done on any previous lap in this qualifying session. He rounds the final turn. Full foot to the gas now, and Roland Hurtner heads towards the timing line. And once he breaks that, we will see that Roland Hurtner now goes 3rd fastest, pushing Talal Sha'er and Mutlu Tarzev further down the order.
Yes, definitely, and another quick time from Andreas Koenig. Stop me if you've heard that before. No, please don't stop me. It's a 1:44.608, so we're getting closer and closer to yesterday's time, and we can see that Lisa Clark has now come out. Eric Chung has now come out. That means our grid of Shell AM drivers is now complete in terms of having greeted the track and the track having greeted them. And it's now with 13.5 minutes or so remaining in this qualifying session. Expect this session to heat up. We get our first laps being taken away due to track limits, and one of those is Roland Hurtner, but it's not the lap that we saw him complete early on. It's the one that he's currently on. So that all stays. There is Henrik Kamstrup, currently down in P50, lowly by his standards, and you can see he's setting about doing something about that state of things as he rounds the final turn, and we will see an improvement from him, not troubling the very, very top times necessarily on this occasion, but certainly in the range of P4, 5, 6, something like that, and it's actually P3, so well done, Kenrick. And he will certainly go again and try to improve even further.
Stephen Earle we look at right now, who's currently 7th fastest. His Sector 1 was a personal best. His Sector 2 just got away from him a little bit, but Stephen Earle, who's 8th fastest now because a car ahead of him has gone better, and that was Mutlu Tarsev. So let's see what Stephen Earle can do now as he heads towards the checkered flag. Sorry, the timing line. Checkered flag isn't going to be out for 12.5 minutes yet. So he breaks the timing beam, and is it an improvement for Stephen Earle? Well, regrettably it isn't. Sector 2 and Sector 3 not to his liking now. One of the more lively looking colours schemes on the Ferrari 296 Challenge car is that of the Eberlein Schumacher Racing 296 Challenge car of Josef Schumacher, who again is P12 at the moment, but with blue sectors, Sector 1 and Sector 2, it's personal improvements across those two sectors as he tracks Hassan Dabusi across the line here. For Josef Schumacher, he goes from P12, Nico, a huge vaulting of places up to P3.
Yes, very, very nice, and I have to say I love how the rims match the color scheme of the car. That's there's certainly some design choices there, and I really, really like how they made it complete and went all the way in terms of making sure the whole car is one, from the rims all the way to the livery. And
sorry, I was just, the inhale of breath was because Eric Chung's lap has been right royally mucked up then because he came across traffic, so he's going to have to go again. He was personally better through Sector 1 and Sector 2, but Sector 3 is going to be a relative disaster for him, and so he's going to have to go again. He certainly won't improve his P7 time on that lap, so he'll try and do it all over again, Nico, which does mean he takes another lap out of his Pirelli P0s. The order is Andreas Koenig, who's parked the car having done 7 laps. We have got drivers that have done 8 laps, and one driver that's done 9, which was Jan Sandman. So, yeah, the minimum number of laps that you can put or expend during qualifying means that you still have tyre longevity for the sort of end of the race, come the race time. 30 minutes plus 1 lap. It's a little bit longer race duration than we've had previously because we extend it by a lap. It always used to be 30 minutes on the clock, but it's 30 minutes plus a lap now, as Mutlu Tarsev is also improving for Emil Frey Racing. When you look at the teams that are involved in the Ferrari Challenge, they are at the highest level of motorsport. For example, Emil Frey Racing and Rosso Corsa and Formula and Radici Automobili, a fantastic bunch of teams, and Ronnie Kessel's Kessel Racing team as well. As Mutlu Tarsev now breaks the timing beam or heads towards doing so, and he stays, well, he actually improves 2 places, goes from P6 to P4, so in the final 10 minutes we can expect to see some further changes as Lisa Clark improves 7 places, Nico, and goes from P17 to P12. Who are we missing at the sharp end at the moment? Eric Chung, perhaps he's one of them, and Zeus Skrimpias another.
yes, Jan Sandman only P16 for the time being. Guy Falk P17. He is currently in pit lane.
Koenig has done enough, he feels.
He looks satisfied. He's a little bit quicker than he was yesterday.
Yes.
We had a 1:44.6, so certainly an improvement, and yeah, is in good spirits. And at some point there comes the moment where you decide, well, I might be able to shave off 1 more tenth, but it would mean putting another lap into the tires at maximum stress. So, you know, maybe that's just the best on balance. Zoe Scrimpias, we can see he is putting in quick times, and lots of other drivers. There is Stephen Earle, the number 100 car, currently in P10, just improved his time on the last time around. And there is the man, the rookie, and I say that with so much respect because he's driving like anything but.
Yes, you're right. Zoe Scrimpias then, P11, make that P1. And he will know that there's an even better lap in him. Only 2 drivers into the 44s, and that is this man, Zoe Scrimpias, and also Andreas Koenig. But here comes Eric Chung. Now, his last lap was curtailed somewhat by traffic. He has got, I think that's Henrik Kamstrup up ahead of him. Eric Chung with personal best through Sector 1 and Sector 2. He's currently 4th fastest. This could potentially be an improvement for Eric Chung as he goes through the kink now and heads towards the final turn, Nico. He's targeting a 1:44 time. A 1:44.228 would be enough to see him vault or Scrimpias. Might be a big ask, but here comes Eric Chung then, and he breaks the timing beam now. And he lost time in the final sector, Nico. And Corinne, his wife, looks on and shakes her head as if to say, do you know what? You could have done a bit better. I'm sure she doesn't think that at all. But
I'm not so sure he would think that, but indeed, I think Eric will think the very same thing. He was just relegated to P5 by Jan Sandman, the man that we were talking about. And there is Andrea Levy. He was leading for a quite significant time of this qualifying session, and he's just going through the warm-up routine again. And I think this lap would be the one that he fancies. Could be a very meaningful one. Has improved sector by sector, quicker and quicker, and now he is, I think, has everything at peak conditions. There you could see as Shintaro Katsu went through, Zoe Scrimpias taking a very, very slow line through the final turn as we have a yellow flag temporarily. It's already been rescinded. But obviously Zoe Scrimpias being very slow through that final turn means that also the next lap very likely is not going to be absolutely perfect, because the momentum just isn't there that you would usually want to have coming out of the turn. And probably that was
Hassan Debussy getting sideways, Nico.
And that was probably the reason for the yellow flag for just a moment, as Hassan Debussy is sideways across the track around turn 11, but no longer, and that means Andrea Levy shouldn't be compromised at all by that. Good first sector, decent second sector, so certainly on trajectory for an improvement.
Hassan Debussy, big shout out to him, making his debut in the Ferrari Challenge, in the Winter Challenge that we mentioned earlier on this year, and electing to race in the European Challenge for the entire season. A very welcome addition he is as well. Here comes Andrea Levy then. P6 at the moment with personal best through Sector 1 and Sector 2. And now we'll head towards the line. Let's see where this takes Andrea Levy then from P6 to P3. So an improvement of 3 places, Nico. Still some 8 tenths down on the best time, which has come from Zoe Scrimpias at 1:44.229. Here comes Shintaro Akatsu. I don't think this is going to be necessarily an improvement for Shintaro, who is currently 5th fastest, and we expect him to stay 5th fastest at the moment. Eric Chung is 6th fastest. And just taking a look at Eric's sector times, not sure that he is in a position to better his time at the moment. We've got 3 track limit lap deletions. They are for Tal Al-Shaher, for Roland Hertner, and also for Alvaro Ramos. Tal Al-Shaher, the very man that I was talking about for Scuderia Lebanon, is on an improvement trajectory personally, certainly because the sectors are coloured blue at the moment. So P7 currently around the final turn now, 100% on the loud pedal. We'll head towards the towards breaking the line, and will he improve from his current P7 position? We are about to find out. No, he does not.
No, but we can see that the chase for pole position is heating up, and this man is doing the cooking.
Oh, yes.
Lighting up the stove, lighting up the brake discs as he enters the chicane, goes through the apexes. First sector, very, very good. Second sector, equally good. pole after 2 sectors. Now will that traffic, and I think it's Jan Sandman that he is running ahead of him. I think it's just enough space to not compromise him on the track. Will it have shifted his attention a little bit?
bailed.
And yes, he has. Oh, that's so unfortunate. That was...
He's bailed.
And it also compromises the next lap, because
Yep.
obviously all the momentum is gone, and that's unfortunate. But I think there is still a potential. Andrea Levy certainly has the pace in the car.
Yeah. Just came at the wrong time, didn't it? As so often happens. There you can see Andrea there, the team boss of Rosso Corsa, looking on. And full of focus and full of attention on the pit wall. That the Anico Reporter Corsa Ram team, and that the Mutlu Tarzev car in the pit lane. At the moment it is Zoe Skrimpias P1, Andreas Koenig P2, then it's Andrea Levy, then it's Jan Sandman and Shitaro Akatsu. Here's a driver that would like to improve, and thus far, Nico, I would say is doing so, because Sector 1 is purple. Eric Chung is on a mission.
He's on a mission, and he's on a mission to do something about his current starting position, P6. Ideally, he would like to have P1. Sector 2 wasn't quite up to the lofty heights of the first one, but we're talking about 8 100ths difference after 2 sectors. Again, traffic might come into play, but I think he's just good enough. Oh, but that was a slide, and that certainly cost some time. I wouldn't rule out his opportunity to improve even further, but that didn't help. Let's see. Final corner, no traffic, but yeah, again, I don't think that was full speed through that final turn. Certainly was narrow around the apex. And indeed, that...
You're right.
But there is Jan Sandman, and let's stay with this shot. Jan Sandman, thanks for throwing the timing, because he's very quick and he does improve. Also lost a little bit of time in the final sector, but improves to 3rd place.
So it can continue to change all the way through until a lap has been completed after the checkered flag. If you're lucky enough to cross the line with 001 on the clock, you can complete another lap, and those that we perhaps expect to see. Now, this was Eric Chung. It was mid-chicane here. He just probably took a little bit too much curb on the exit of the middle of the chicane, which just unsettled the back end of the car. It was a good save from him, but when the car is sliding, Nico, of course, you're actually scrubbing off speed, which is not what he wanted to do at that point, as Zoe Skrimpias has remained steadfast in the car in case he needed to respond to anyone that was going quicker.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, now, though, obviously no point in coming out again. He is in P1. Shintaro Akatsu looks happy enough with P5 for the moment. Right now, nobody is on anything like a very, very strong lap. Andrea Levy is still pushing, so he can still complete this lap. Eric Chung potentially could go once again. Whether he will decide to do that remains to be seen. 34 seconds remaining. As you said, as long as there is 1 second on the clock, and we could just see, I think it was Henrik Kamstrup who went by, so he's going to go for another lap. But here is our professional pole setter. We will keep you up to speed in terms of who's going to try once more to unsettle this man from P1.
Yes, those that are staying out there, as Nico saw Henrik Kamstrup staying out there, we think Eric Chung is staying out as well. There you can see the order on the left-hand side of your screen. Andrea Levy, this lap time is not going to be necessarily an improvement from Andrea Levy. He's 4th fastest, and I suspect he's going to stay 4th fastest. Sure enough, that is the case. So those that are of interest to us are potentially Eric Chung. We'll see in just a moment what his Sector 1 lap time is going to be, and whether that provokes us to take a look at the car still out there on track and how it's doing. As Zoe Skrimpias, as far as he's concerned, they've done enough, and Eric is down on time, isn't he, Nico, through Sector 1? Yeah,
it's not a huge gap, and I certainly think he has a chance to improve, but I do think the pole time will be the 1:44.229 by Zoe Skrimpias. Not quicker than yesterday, in fairness. But enough is enough. There is no better starting place than P1.
No.
You don't get extra gap for being even quicker. But Yeah,
How
and
do you feel about pole position? Really disappointed. I wanted to be P7. It's not something that you generally hear from racing drivers.
I may have heard it. No, never. Eric Chung certainly has bailed the lap. He is going to come in at the conclusion of this lap, and that, I believe, is the last challenge to any improvement on our timing screen. Henrik Kamstrup has also come in, and that means this is the car that will start the race from pole position.
Yes, it will be another Rotiform pole position award that will be presented to Zoe Scrimpias. And as Nico has so articulated, he will be going from that P1 position on the grid. So Zoe Scrimpias from, and what was really nice to see and reinforces the camaraderie that you were talking about, one of the first people to go over and congratulate Zoe Scrimpias was Andreas Koenig, who's starting from P2. And that's indicative of the paddock here in the Ferrari Challenge, and how the drivers, whilst of course they are committed to beating everyone else out there on the track, when the crash helmets come off, they have a great deal of respect for each other, and yeah, that's always good to see. So Zoe Scrimpias from Andreas Koenig, they will be on the front row. We'll bring you the full confirmed classification in just a moment, as here it comes right now. Coppa Shell qualifying 2, Zoe Scrimpias, fastest driver ahead of Andreas Koenig and Jan Sandman. Then it was Andrea Levy, Shintaro Akatsu, Eric Chung, Talal Sha'er. Stephen Earle, good quali, P8. Then it was Mutlu Tarzev and Josef Schumacher. Paolo Scudieri, Gay Fave, Henrik Hamstrup, Roland Hertner, and Maurizio Pittori. So well done, Josef Schumacher, incidentally. He'll be starting from the 5th row. He finishing in P10. And then from 15 on, it's the likes of Alvaro Ramos, Hassan Debussy, Lisa Clark, Franz Kevitz, and Louis Peruskia. That's how Coppa Shell qualifying played out here at the Jerez circuit in Spain. Thank you so much for watching qualifying. Well done to Zoe Scrimpias, who receives that Rotiform pole position award. He's pretty happy about that, and why wouldn't you be? So well done indeed. Thanks for qualifying. We've got 3 great races to come a little bit later on today. Make sure you join us for those. From Nico and myself, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.